I came back to Colorado, asked my dad for a $200 loan so I could buy a squeegee kit off of Amazon. I used my friend's ladder, knocked my first door, landed it, made 220 bucks, and then the rest was history. If you train somebody, you trust them, you give them responsibility, you let them make those mistakes, then you're going to have guys that are able to complete any job. A lot of these service-based industries are not rocket science. I need a logo first, I need business cards first. You do not need any of that to start a business. We were doing 10K a month long before I had any of those things.
We're going to be talking all about your business today. I think this is going to be a super inspirational story for so many of our listeners out there. So I'm super stoked to jump into that. But first, I want to get your origin story. How did Tiger Window Cleaning come to be? What got you into it? Kind of give us that quick origin story.
Absolutely. So my older brother, he worked for a window cleaning company up in Montana, and he would just knock doors, and that's kind of how he paid for groceries. So I decided I kind of wanted to do the same thing because I knew I was going to be coming to Auburn, Alabama, which is the school I'm at right now, where the minimum wage is $7 an hour. And I figured that wouldn't be a really livable wage for me. So I decided I would do the same thing as my brother. So I flew out to Montana. He trained me how to use the squeegee. We knocked a couple doors together. And then I came back to Colorado, asked my dad for a $200 loan so I could buy a squeegee kit off of Amazon. I used my friend's ladder, knocked my first door, landed it, made 220 bucks, was able to pay off that initial investment. And then the rest was history.
Wow. Okay. So you took this from a $220 first gig. And I saw you were on my buddy's show, Nick Loper. You were doing $10,000 months in no time. So let's talk about the evolution from your $220 first time gig to 10,000, 10K plus per month. What did that look like when you first started out? You did your door knocking, you were successful. Was door knocking the number one way for you to get business, or take us through the evolution of how you first got started?
Yeah, so for the first 9 months of running my window cleaning business, it kind of looked the same. I would knock doors and then I would clean them myself with a squeegee and a ladder. And that's kind of how I paid for groceries, just like my brother did for those first 9 months. And then I got inspired and I heard about this thing called a water-fed pole and deionized water. It's like a revolutionary way to clean windows without having to go up on the ladder and use a squeegee and risk my life. So I decided I would make the investment of $2,000 off of Facebook Marketplace, drove over to Atlanta, picked one up, and then the next day I went out and I used a new pitch that I found off of TikTok. I just copy and pasted exactly what I was hearing off of TikTok. And that first day I actually sold $750 of windows, and I was able to clean all those windows in the same day. And so it's kind of groundbreaking for me. And then from there, I brought on my first buddy. I basically just asked for some help, and he said I could come out the next day, paid him 20 bucks an hour. And it was actually that first month where I bought this pole that we did 10K a month. And now this summer, we're hitting months over 30K.
Wow. Okay. All right. So before we get to where you are now, you bought this pole, you made the investment, added a teammate. Was this like summertime when you were doing this? I know you're also in school. So How did this all operate when you were trying to grow this, but also go to school?
Yeah, so that first 10K month was actually during finals month. It was during April. So I was still a full-time college student. And basically I would finish class at around 11:30 or 12. And then after that, every single day I would just go out and knock and then clean windows. So I had the time, and then also with having a helper with me, definitely sped up the process a lot. And then that first month after I hit 10K, I went back home to Colorado and I basically had to restart from scratch. So I was able to bring my DI tank and my water-fed pole with me. I had to get like a new ladder. I didn't even have a logo, LLC, insurance, anything at this point. But within 3 weeks, just from knocking doors, we hit another 10K.
Wow. Okay. So knocking doors, let's talk about this for a second, because this is something that terrifies the average person.
Oh, yeah.
Is just going up, knocking on a door and asking for business. Would you say you're type A personality where you're extroverted, you can go out, you can knock doors and you can put your pitch out there? Or were you nervous at first? What was that like? And then I'm interested in what type of pitch you used to start getting attention while door knocking.
Yeah, so I am most definitely not a type A person. My freshman year, really the whole reason I got motivated to go out in the first place was because I hated going out. I just had class until noon. And then after that, I was basically in my room trying to figure out what to do. I didn't really like going out, making a lot of friends, but door to door definitely helped me get into a position where I am more type A. But in the beginning, no, I hated it. My heart was pounding my first couple doors. I'd stutter. It was terrible. But, I saw the money and the potential in it. and I definitely didn't want to go work for $7 an hour. Being a dead broke college student will make you do things that you don't want to do. So I was going out and knocking doors and knocking literally until my knuckles bled. And you kind of get to a point where you're a lot more comfortable with it. But even now, don't like knocking doors. I haven't knocked doors in months, and
Yeah.
I plan not to knock doors for a while longer too.
Okay. So how did you craft that first pitch? Before you approached your first door, what was it? What was the, I guess, the script you gave yourself?
Yeah, so at first it was just the first thing that came to mind. So my pitch at first was just, hey, my name is Jack. I have a business called Tiger Window Cleaning. I'd love to clean your windows. Can I get you a price? And that's the homeowners are trained to say no to that. So you can knock on 100 million doors and maybe one person might let you give them a price. And that's if they're
Mhm.
super nice. But you really need to stand out at the door. So you can actually see these TikTokers. There's tons of window cleaning influencers that all have the same exact window cleaning pitch. It's really cringy. It's really corny, but it works because you don't want to try to reinvent the wheel. So I basically copy and pasted that. I've heard it a bunch of times, but I know the homeowners haven't. So basically it goes, hey, my name's Jack. I don't know if you've seen me or my guys working down the street. We've just been helping out Jamie. And then we say, like, we've just been helping out with the windows, frames, and sills. When's the last time you had that done? And no matter what they say, they'll say, like, I don't know, 6 months. And then you go, okay, well, what we've been doing for a lot of neighbors is just running around the house, counting up the glass, getting you a quick price. While we're already here, we're taking off $100. And then they go, okay. So you go around, count it up. Usually, if you were just to call us out, it'd be $250. But if we could fit you in today or next week, whatever the timeline is, then we can do it for only $150. And that works a lot better than just being like, hey, my name's Jack with Tiger Window Cleaning.
Wow. Okay. So you noticed this strategy off of TikTok. It started working wonders. So were you doing all your bit, like when you were doing your 10K month, was that all pulled off of door to door?
Pretty much. So the first three, like 10K months, was just me grinding at the doors. And then I kind of got started to get burnt out. And I realized that the second I step away, this business is going to make $0 of revenue. So I looked into meta ads, Facebook meta ads. And that was a huge game changer. I posted my first video and then I immediately started paying like $15 per lead. And I was landing like 99% of these leads, driving out there and using that sales ability that I gained from door to door to be able to sell actually interested homeowners. And so when I transitioned from door to door into social media, it allowed me to kind of step back and hop off the doors while still maintaining those 10K months.
Wow. Okay. Is that how you're doing most of your lead gen right now? Is it through Facebook ads?
Yeah, so I'd say probably 80% of our leads, probably more like 60 to 70% of our leads are coming through Facebook. And then we were running Google ads at some point, but those weren't really doing well. We have a next door ad going right now. We have SEO on Google, but Facebook ads can definitely, especially during the summer, if you have great ads and a good reputation, that can bring you to 20K plus per month just from Facebook ads.
Wow. Okay. So you mentioned in the summer, this type of stuff kills it. Is this seasonal for you, or I guess down in Alabama, is this a year-round business?
Yeah, so last year, as I was a sophomore, I was doing it totally year round. Now, last year I was in the field a lot, and I was doing this. It was all on meta ads, so we weren't doing any door to door, but we were able to maintain 10K months throughout the year. But I was on the field a lot, and it was extremely tiring. I had class from just Tuesday and Thursday all day, and then Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, I'd be out there 10 plus hours a day. I was on every single job, getting completely burnt out. But then over this summer, I was able to kind of transition from a solo operation into building a machine that's able to operate and funnel leads into cash flow without me being there. But yeah, that's really important. And it is slightly seasonal. Like obviously, month of June and April, those months are going to be a lot more, you're going to be grabbing a lot more attention. But if you're running lots of advertising throughout the year, you're still going to be getting called out plenty.
Wow. Do you have repeat customers, or do you have like a subscription service that people can buy into?
Yeah, that's a great question. So over this summer, that's the biggest regret I have running this thing for about 2 years is only in the last 2 months we started rolling out with our service plans. So we have three service plans right now. We have a quarterly, a biannual, and a annual plan. With each of these plans basically gives you a percentage off between 15 and 25% off for the recurring service. And then for the one, and then you get 15% off to 20% off for the one-time services. So we don't just provide window cleaning, we also do pressure washing and soft washing. And a lot of those are just one-time services. So we add a discount on top of the recurring window cleaning.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And back to the Facebook lead. So I'm curious, can you walk me through your process of when a lead comes in to being able to sell them? Are you calling them right away? What's your exact process look like?
Yeah, so basically there's an app, it's called Ad Center or Ads Manager, I think. You can check that constantly, or you can also, if you're on Instagram a lot, you can check that constantly. And you can also install Zapier, which will send you a notification every time you get a lead. But it's super important, I found, to call these leads the second that they come in. So as soon as I see a lead, either me or McKenna handles all of our quoting now, but she will call the lead, or I will call the lead the second it comes in, and then we try to quote it day of or the next day. But first thing we do is we call them, then we leave them a voicemail, and then we immediately text them. But it's really important to make sure that these customers know that you're actually reaching out to them. There's a lot of neglected leads. Also, not being too pushy with it. We try to keep it super simple in our text. So, at most we're sending 2 to 3 sentence texts. Our voicemails are super simple. We don't want to scare anyone off.
Wow. Okay. So let's talk about your team. As you started building to 10K plus months, up to 30K month, it sounds like. How did you build your team? What was the process like for you?
Yeah, so I've gone through a lot of guys. I've made a lot of mistakes along the way, a lot of training errors. Most important thing that I found when it came to building a team is, as a solo operator, a lot of solo operators are terrified of trusting other people to do the work. They have some kind of thing up their butt that makes them think that only they're able to do amazing work. That's not the case. If you train somebody and if you trust them, you give them a responsibility, you let them make those mistakes, then you're going to have guys that are able to complete any job. It's really not rocket science. A lot of these service-based industries are not rocket science. But at first, I was just bringing on my friends, and we were just doing exterior windows at that point. It was super easy, but I wouldn't even train them on the squeegee because I just didn't trust them on the squeegee. And then when I got into the school year and we started doing pressure washing, I definitely didn't trust anybody with the pressure washing because I'm like, there's so much that can go wrong. Like, this pressure washer breaks all the time. They're not going to know how to fix it. And then it got to a point where I was getting totally burnt out. And then I was like, okay, I just need to trust these guys. So we brought on some new guys towards last April. And I kind of did a change from being a transactional leader to a transformational leader, where I'm teaching them not by telling them what to do, but by letting them figure it out. And so I would give them way less time before I let them do a solo job. And then, yeah, there were a lot of callbacks at first. There was a lot of mistakes. My main guy right now, actually, he was doing a house wash, his first ever solo house wash, and he stripped a ton of stain on the front of this guy's house. It costed $2,300 to fix. So it's not cheap, but stuff like that can happen all the time. But I'm so glad that he made that mistake, because now I know he's never going to go near any stained wood again. He's never going to make that mistake again. And when he's training guys in the future, none of our guys are going to be making that mistake either.
Wow. Okay. So what does your team look like now? How many crew members do you have? Do you have administrative staff? What does that all look like?
So we have 2 cleaners at the moment, just because we're transitioning from our summer crew to our fall crew. But we are currently training 4 more, so we'll have 6 total. And then we have Kenna. She does all of our quoting and our scheduling. And then we have Will Bruce, who I pay. I only pay $300 a month, but he's on the equity agreement. So at the moment, I own 100% of the company. But Will Bruce, he has potential to earn equity based off of how the business performs. But at the moment, he takes care of kind of all the logistical stuff. So a lot of the time he's reaching out to big commercial contracts. He is dealing with all of our payroll, our accounting, our QuickBooks. He helped set up the CRM, but he's done a lot of great work. But I think being in the college town, you find so much amazing potential and amazing skills that just aren't being used because these kids are stuck, being in college, and they want to use these skills. They don't even necessarily want to be paid a lot, but they just want opportunity and chances to grow. And so I've been able to find those people and capitalize on that.
Are these all fellow students at Auburn?
Yeah, so we are
Wow.
100% student owned and operated.
Wow. Okay. Very cool. Awesome. So you mentioned your possible future partner has been helping with CRM and getting all these things set up. When you started winning more and more jobs, how did you handle the logistics of it? So routing, and do you guys have trucks, or how did that all work for you?
Yeah, so we currently have two trucks, and we use a CRM. It's called Field, and Field's been super great for us. When last year, when I was in the field every day, we didn't even have a CRM, so I was the one sending out all the on the way texts, reminding them the day before, and that is a ton of work sending out that many texts to that many clients. It's brutal work. So when I finally got a CRM, it was a complete game changer. It allowed me to fully automate my business throughout the summer, and it's something I wish I have done so much sooner. But yeah, our CRM basically put a job into the schedule, and then you can see all the information from that. So the address, you can see the job, how much they owe, everything. And then you can like swipe start when you click on the job and swipe start, and then it will send automatic on the way text to the homeowner. It also reminds them a day before and a week before the service. And then the guys, we just assign them to a job on our CRM, and they see the job, and then they come to my place. They pick up one of the trucks, whichever one they need, either the pressure washing truck or the window cleaning truck. And then they go off to the job, and I don't need to hear from them ever. They just do it. They know exactly what to do. If they're running late, they'll call the homeowner or they'll text them. They'll try to reschedule something. But yeah, it totally allows me to completely step out.
Wow. Okay. What does a business like this need to be compliant? So you said you ended up getting your LLC. Tell us about all the things that I think most people might forget about until it's too late or until there's a problem, like insurance or, licensed, bonded, insured. What are all the things that a business like yours needs to make sure they have buttoned up on the internal side before really starting to turn out a lot of revenue?
Yeah, so honestly, you don't really need any of those things to start printing out a lot of revenue. If you're running like a door-to-door team, now you might get into trouble along the way. Let's say you make a huge mistake, you don't have insurance, that's going to be an issue. If you don't have an LLC and you're not filing taxes, that could be tax fraud. But don't let that stop you from starting a business. Like I didn't even have any of that stuff until a year into doing it. Now, when I started having those big months, I had two 10K months before I even filed the LLC, before I made the logo, before I started getting insurance, because at first it was just kind of a little startup thing, and I didn't realize that it was gonna grow as quickly as it did. But a lot of people will see like LLC, the big scary LLC, like I don't know how to make that. One, it takes 20 minutes to make, but also don't let that stop you from starting a business. Or I need a logo first, or I need polos first, I need business cards first, I need all of that. I need a website. You do not need any of that to start a business. We were doing 10K a month long before I had any of those things.
I love that. Yeah, and the LLC is so simple. In most states, it might cost like $100.
Yeah.
You file a little bit of paperwork, you get your EIN with the IRS, and you're good to go. Like it's really not a problem. What about business insurance? Is that just as easy?
Yeah, it's really simple. I use Progressive, and then they got me set up. I was probably on the phone for 45 minutes, but I pay 1,000 a year. And so around $100 a month. It's really not that much.
And that's important to have, especially in your line of work, because you're dealing with people's homes, right? So, like you said, where your guy on his first house, he stripped the paint and it was $2,300. I met if you had insurance at that point, that's where that comes in handy, right? Because then that's $2,300. It's not coming out of your pocket.
Yeah. Well, for me, I'd usually just like to pay that stuff kind of out of pocket. I
Mhm.
don't like to
If
kind
it's
of,
small enough, I guess.
yeah, it's not, maybe if it was something huge, then I would use insurance, and that's what it's there for. But I don't want my rates to skyrocket because of little
Yep.
things like that. But it is certainly important, especially when you're doing pressure washing stuff. There's a lot of liability that can come into that. But when you're doing like interior, exterior window cleaning, for example, honestly, the homeowners usually don't even care if you have insurance or not. Now, if you're getting up on ladders and stuff, you might want some health insurance. But then if you plan on doing like a big operation, now you should definitely start to think about insurance. People are going to start asking for insurance. And then when you add pressure washing, or you're adding services that can actually like seriously damage somebody's home, then you really need to start worrying about that stuff.
So, do you guys do interior window cleaning as well?
Yeah, we do.
Okay, so you have this awesome contraption, this pole, and actually, there's my company. I own a marketing company. And we work with a guy almost just like you who came knocking on the door, offered to do our windows, and we're building out his website and handling his marketing here. And he showed me the contraption you're talking about, the pole sponge, and the deionized water, which I had no idea that was a thing. That was incredible. But on the interior, how do you do the interior? How does that work? Do you guys have a different tool for that, or is it just classic squeegee and Windex? How does that look?
Yeah, it's basically just Dawn dish soap and then a squeegee and a strip washer, or just like a mop. Same thing as a strip washer. But yeah, interior windows is super simple. It's super cheap. The equipment for it is just super cheap. Exterior windows, you can also use a squeegee and ladders and stuff. But then when you decide you want to be a bit safer and a bit more efficient, then you spend that $2,000. You'll pay it off in a week.
Wow. Okay. So tell me about the customer service aspect of your business. Because it's one thing to handle lead gen, bring in new business, go perform the business. But what about after the business is performed, or if there are any issues that arise? How do you handle customer service?
Yeah, so at the end of every single job, I train the technicians to tell the homeowner that if you happen to see anything wrong at all, please give us a call. We'd be happy to come out and fix it. Anytime somebody calls us out, we're always going back. We're trying to correct our mistakes. Even if there is no mistake, we're going there, explain the situation to the homeowner. Customer service is something that's super important to us. Our reputation, Auburn's a pretty small town and our reputation is everything to us. So if, we're running into mistakes, we're getting callbacks, we're going to make sure 100% that those are resolved. I have nightmares about getting a 1-star review. I really hope I don't, because that could really flip a business.
So you mentioned your star reviews. Do you guys utilize your Google Business Profile?
Yeah. So since we've probably been running our Google Business Profile for about 6 months, and that wasn't something I took very serious until this summer when I got a new website. But over the summer, I think we got 50 reviews, but we're at 64 reviews total, and they're all 5-star, so they're all great. But Auburn's not a huge area, and so we're already number 2 on Google for window cleaning. And so, if you're in a big city like Charlotte or Atlanta, you might have a lot more competition there. But in a little town like this, just having a good reputation with a lot of the local people and really enforcing the technicians or yourself to get those 5-star reviews. That's the one thing we try to be really pushy about, is those 5-star reviews. We have little QR codes on all of our cards that we give to the homeowner. We ask the homeowner for those 5 stars, and then I pay the technicians $10 for every 5-star that they get.
Wow. Okay. So that was going to be my next question, is how do you go about getting these 5 stars? Because for so many small business owners, this is like the one thing they have the most trouble just even asking for.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you make it super simple. Got a QR code on the back of your card. How does it work? Do they ask for it right after the job is done? Kind of walk me through that process.
Yeah, we have automated ones too, like after we finish a job, but nobody's really going to fill that out. But if you do it in person, they really don't have a choice. You can just say, hey, do you have your phone on you? And they'll be like, no, 1 second, let me grab it. And then you're like, okay, real quick, could you just scan this QR code and then leave us a review? We'd really appreciate it. It helps our business grow. They have no choice but to leave a review. So that's the way we do it, and it's worked for us.
Yeah. A little bit of peer pressure never hurt anyone, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. So tell me, what do the margins look like in a business like this? Like how, kind of what are your average months, and what are your fixed costs and your expenses, cost of goods? I'd love to get anybody listening out there who might be possibly looking to get into a business like this, what everything looks like from a numbers standpoint.
Yeah, so that's a great question. And it really depends on your situation. When I'm running a structured business at this point, the margins are going to be a bit lower. Our net margin right now is between 40 and 45%, which is still amazing.
Yeah.
When I was running at first during those 10K months with just a water-fed pool, and it was me on all the jobs, our net margin was probably like 80%. All you have to replace is the filters once a month, and then, pay for my helper pretty much. But that's pretty much it. The margins in the window cleaning and the pressure washing industry are amazing. And you'll find your little niches too, like the things you have the best margins on, and that's the things you can really capitalize on. For us, it's exterior windows. If we're doing a full day of exterior windows, we're going to crank through those jobs. We're not going to have any problems. We're not going to have any problems with the equipment. We know that equipment's going to last us years and years, no matter how many exterior window cleaning jobs we're doing. And then our margins on that is just going to be incredible. But when we're doing, big pressure washing jobs, I know that my truck's going to be running into issues. We got to use bleach. Stuff is going to break down. And so that's kind of where that comes into. For fixed expenses, oh, we have insurance, we have car insurance, we have our CRM. We probably have a couple other softwares that I'm not familiar with, subscriptions, but those probably aren't very much. We have advertising. So advertising is a big one. Right now we're doing $40 a day, but earlier we were just doing $20 to $25 a day, and that works totally fine. So it's not a crazy amount. And then the payoff that you're getting from those ads is most definitely worth it. And then labor is 35%. So our gross margin is around 65%. And then our net is just kind of all the other miscellaneous stuff.
Wow. Okay. So that leads me to my next question of your pricing. So how did you first decide what to charge? And then what are you guys charging now for the different levels of service you provide?
Yeah, so my brother basically just told me, and I still kind of go by this, just counting up the window panes on somebody's house and then multiplying it by 5. That always gives you kind of baseline price to use. And now I usually use that price and I look around. I'm like, okay, are there screens on this house that we're going to have to take out? Are these windows all on the second story? Are they going to be more difficult to reach? Are there bushes in the way? Are they super dirty? That kind of stuff. Is the homeowner going to be really picky about the mold on the frames? And so that's the kind of stuff that I look at. But our baseline is usually just counting up the windows, multiplying it by 5. It's pretty simple. And then for pressure washing and that kind of stuff, it's usually just all square footage. So for concrete, we do 14 cents per square foot. House washing, we do 20 cents per square foot, et cetera.
Wow. Okay. So kind of, I guess, an industry standard algorithm, if you will, for deciding pricing. How do you decide on discounting, or if it's, to get people in the door? My next question is going to be about your Facebook ads, but do you feature an offer on the front end? What does that look like in terms of bringing in business?
We never really provide discounts. Only time we really do a discount is when we are knocking on their door in person, because we really can be there, the next day. Now, maybe when we get into slower months, we might start promoting discounts. That's never something I've really tried, though.
Interesting. Okay. So tell me about your Facebook ads. I'm curious. So it sounds like you're getting great results on this. You're spending about $40 a day. Is that all on Facebook, or is that split between a couple platforms?
That's split between Nextdoor and Google as well.
Okay.
$25 a day is on Facebook, though.
Okay. So I love this medium, especially for a young business and generating leads. What does your ad creative look like? Is it a video? Is it in an image?
Yeah. So I've tried a lot of different types of ads, and where I land every single time is the video ads. They're unbeatable. They're going to perform a million times better than any kind of picture ad. Picture ads are basic. Everyone's just going to scroll right through. But when you have a little goofy video ad for me, like, I'm a young guy, I try to be funny in the videos. My first ad that I had was in Colorado over last summer, so a little over a year ago. And, I was like, hey, Auburn, there's an epidemic going around. People's windows are looking like this or this or this. And then I kind of switch it back to kind of our process. But these videos are usually like a minute long, and they're recorded on the phone. They don't have to look very professional. In fact, I would avoid away from making your videos look super professional, because then you're just not going to really stand out. And then one thing that's super important is when you're boosting your ads, you don't have send message. You have a get quote, and then it sends them to an instant form. And so all they have to do is just fill out like their name, email, phone number, and then what service they want. And I usually don't include anything more than that. And from there, I get way more leads than one, a picture ad, or two, them just sending me messages.
Wow. Okay. What does your ad copy look like? Is it just real simple, or do you have a lot of text involved when you're writing your ads?
No, we don't have a lot of text. It's just kind of us talking. We have captions, but no, the most recent one we did, it was just me and my friend kind of walking through like the business, trying to be funny. Like one of the scenes was like, and we were talking about our service plans, and we're talking about how it makes it easy as pie, and then I get pie in my face. Or another thing we did was like, he was throwing a ladder over and yelling timber, and then I tell him about how we don't need to use ladders anymore, that kind of stuff.
Wow. Okay. I like it. And then these are turning out a small handful of leads every day?
Yeah, so I'm paying $16 per lead at the moment. And then that doesn't include like all the calls that I get from my website. Also, like I have my number on the videos, so I'm probably paying a lot less per lead, but that's how much it is for the on Facebook lead. And then after we call those leads, our conversion rate on those is usually about 80%. It used to
Wow.
be a lot higher. It used to be like 95%. And then I realized that my prices were probably a little too low. So I upped them, and now we're kind of where we want to be at, which is around 80%. And it's really important for us that we're quoting these people in person, as many as we can. A lot of people, if you have a lot of leads, you have a lot of traffic, and you just don't have time or the need for adding more customers, then that's when you can start quoting people on the phone. But if you're going to be in person, it's a lot harder for somebody to reject you in person while you're currently asking for an answer at the door.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned your website a couple times. When did you get a website first built? And then I kind of want to talk about how you went about doing that.
Yeah, so I got very lucky because my brother, he's a software engineer. So he was able to build my first website, but we did not like it at all. It was his first ever website that he built. And so I used that for about 6 months. It got us no traffic. It really didn't look great. But then he decided he wanted to take on another project. I paid him $500 for that website, and I paid him $1,200 for the website that we have right now. And we've been getting a lot more traffic through that. Our ticket size has increased drastically. We're selling $1,700, $1,800, $2,500 jobs from our website leads. But then our meta leads, we're usually just doing exterior windows, interior windows, smaller jobs. But having a good website, we've only installed it pretty recently, but I found that it's being a game changer. People trust us way more, and we just look like a lot more professional and reputable company. But it's certainly not something that you really need to have to be doing 10 to 20K months. But now when you want to start building a structured company, that's definitely something you need to add.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you do any sort of SEO work with it, or is it just it's well built and it's out there churning out the leads?
Yeah, my brother, he dove deep into a bunch of SEO stuff. So I don't really know how any of that works, but he was telling me about some of the stuff he was doing. So yeah, he's definitely was working on a lot of SEO for that.
Wow, very cool. So, what does this year look like? How are you guys rounding out the rest of this year? And then over the winter, is it different down in Alabama where you guys have pretty mild winters? Is it going to be still a lot of window cleaning business coming in, or do you have alternate services based on the season?
Yeah, so last year things definitely slowed down, but we were still able to do some 10K months, and which was pretty average for us. So we're gonna see how things go this winter. I'm not exactly sure. We're thinking about adding Christmas lights, and we're also adding in a door-to-door team, which is starting next Monday. Actually, we found some great guys that actually do like pest control door-to-door, and then another guy that had a sales team for a window cleaning company in Charlotte, but now he has nothing to do in Auburn, so he's going to be running one for us. So we're going to have 4 door-to-door guys. And, if you have 4 door-to-door guys going out 3 days a week, it's going to be difficult to manage that amount of business. So we're going to see how that goes. And then through the winter, there was probably 4 days where it went below 32 degrees. So really we're still calling us out plenty. I don't think it's gonna slow down a lot. Like we're never gonna have to put the trucks away for a season. They're always gonna be out. So we're gonna see how that goes. I'm hoping we can continue a steady revenues.
Wow, I love it. So, kind of tell me, because I think we have a lot of listeners, probably college age or in college right now, that might be inspired by your story here. How do you manage your classes and staying on top of what you need to do for school, also being a college student and doing all the cool things that come with that, with running a big business, like multiple six-figure business like this?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's definitely not easy. So it's going to be a grind, especially at first trying to grow it. Now, when you start to get in, a structured business, then that's when you're going to be able to step away and take more time. But, last semester, for example, I'll run you through April. So I was mid investment banking recruiting, and that was taking up way more time than school itself for me. And I was probably working 40 to 50 hours a week just doing window cleaning on the field, reaching out to clients, sending quotes, invoices, etc. And on top of that, doing school and maintaining a 4.0 GPA. And then I was able to get an investment banking job, which was tons of work. So it was definitely a grind. I had to make tons of sacrifices. Never really got to hang out with friends during the day, let go of golf, let go of the gym. It was a lot, and it will burn you out quick. But then over the summer, since I was done with IB recruiting and I was done with school, that's when I was really able to go all like heads on into my business and then kind of shift things from being a solo operation to having structure.
Where do you see this business after school? Is this part of your future? You're going to keep it rolling, or are you getting into investment banking? What does this all look like as you get older?
So I'm doing investment banking next summer, and that's been a huge driver for me over the summer of trying to create it to just a machine that's able to funnel leads. And my goal is to sell it before I graduate. And to get there, I know that I have to kind of make things operable without me there completely. And next summer is going to be a great test for that because I'm not going to be around at all. I'm going to be over in Atlanta. And so, if anyone's listening to this and they want a turnkey business, I'd be happy to jump on the phone call and talk about it. But yeah, that's the goal, is to sell it. Otherwise, I think I could get it to a point where I can step away fully and just put a general manager in the position. And I already have a general manager that I'm looking into hiring from the inside. He's been a great technician and he's planning on staying around. So that's what I've been training on, working on recently. So we're gonna see where it goes. That's a great question though.
Wow. Do you think business ownership is going to be the major part of your future? Or are you looking to stay in banking? Or you're so young, man. You're a millionaire of time.
Yeah, so the reason I'm going into investment banking, so I'm doing M&A, mergers and acquisition stuff for founder-owned businesses. So I'm still going to be working in a very entrepreneurial space, and I plan to get out of that with a much more complex understanding of businesses, so that I can build something on a much larger scale, because it's going to be much more complex than, knocking doors to scale a business.
Yeah. Wow. I love that, man. Well, dude, this is so cool. Thank you for sharing your story and talking about your business today. This is wildly inspirational, even for me. So I'm sure we got plenty of listeners out there who might be able to take this actionable advice and use this inspiration and possibly start their own window cleaning business. So, Jack, thanks for joining us today, man. Really appreciate it. If anybody wants to learn more about you or your story or follow you guys on social, what are the best places to do that?
Yeah, so you can follow my Instagram. It's Jack Zuss, JackZuss. I'll be posting a lot of content on there. You can also reach out to me on email. It's jackleimbach11@gmail. If you have any questions, happy to hop on phone calls with anybody. I love talking about my business, open to do it with anybody, really.
Awesome. All right, dude. Well, thank you so much again. This was awesome, and best of luck to you through the rest of school, through the rest of this year, and hopefully growing this thing to the point where you can sell it.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.